One of the regulations placed on tobacco companies' advertising is the requirement for counter-advertising of facts usually not included in their general ads. As a result, tobacco companies have found new ways to advertise their products, mainly through sponsorships. They benefit from this by placing their advertising at sporting events, naming events after their companies, and even recruiting political support from sporting agencies. One major sport being used by tobacco companies is Formula One. Last year, the tobacco industry was expected to spend an estimated $105 million on Formula One sponsorship, and for good reasons too. Formula One is a sport that claims over 400 million worldwide viewers and is currently working to recruit a new generation of fans. It's estimated that about 35% of new fans are under 25. But when did this type of advertising and collaboration begin? Ever since the first appearance of Imperial Tobacco's sponsorship livery at the 1968 Monaco Grand Prix, the entirety of F1 had been heavily dependent on the financial backing of sponsors for years. And from the arrival of Gold Leaf, the tobacco industry played a major role in sponsoring the sport for many decades. With rising costs in F1, sponsors became very important, and thus liveries reflected the team's sponsors. In 1976, West Germany began to outlaw tobacco sponsorship, and this was followed by the United Kingdom in 1984, which started with major races and outlawed the remaining sponsorships in later years. With the anti-smoking legislation becoming stiffer in many parts of the world, F1 became an even more important opportunity for cigarette brand promotion. The negotiating skills of the F1 leadership, particularly Bernie Ecclestone, were such that in many jurisdictions, F1 achieved some exemptions from the rules. Tobacco companies are looking to attract a new generation of users to their products. While sponsorship by tobacco brands has been banned in nearly every global sport, F1's ban was watered down into a recommendation that the tobacco industry has exploited. By allowing them to sponsor teams like Ferrari and McLaren, F1 is giving tobacco companies access to marketing platforms and venues they could never use on their own. A global anti-tobacco industry group named STOP, Stopping Tobacco Organizations and Products, reported that by the end of the 2020 season, Formula One had made over $4.5 billion from advertisements by tobacco companies during the sport's 70-year history, with more than $100 million spent during the 2020 season alone. The FIA had initially set a ban on tobacco advertising in 2001, but amended this in 2003 to make it a recommendation. According to the STOP report, during the 2019 season, Ferrari and McLaren received a combined $95 million in sponsorship payments from tobacco brands. This doesn't quite make sense, as it seems that ever since 2006, there has been no advertising for tobacco companies in Formula One. But in reality, they continue to promote their products under the radar. Tobacco brands' advertisements represented 1/10 of all F1 team sponsorships in 2019. This seems like a lot for advertising that is supposed to be banned. Regardless, big tobacco brands like Philip Morris and British American Tobacco continue to pour massive cash into Formula One, and this is because they are gaining from it. These companies have obtained peerless visibility, so this alliance was very beneficial for both parties. It was estimated that by 1999, tobacco companies were spending around $82.9 million per year on F1 sponsorships. While this alliance was greatly beneficial, it had to come to an end due to the regulations imposed on the sport by various groups. This became problematic for F1 as the financial void was never filled, and considering how expensive the sport is, teams had to start looking for drivers who pay to race instead of the fastest drivers, making many F1 drivers mediocre, while other talented ones are left out of the category. Considering this damage, some teams have found a sneaky way to gain sponsorships from tobacco companies once again. Ferrari is the most valuable racing team globally, worth billions of dollars, and is considered to be the most successful in terms of race wins. Marlboro has had a long-standing partnership with Scuderia Ferrari since 1984, and it continues till this day. In September 2019, Marlboro renewed its partnership with Ferrari in a sponsorship deal estimated to cost about $160 million per year. In 2020, motorsport website GP Fans estimated that the company had spent $625 million sponsoring F1 over the previous decade. But how does Ferrari manage to advertise this tobacco company even with the restrictions currently in place? Until 2010, Ferrari used barcodes as a cover for the tobacco company, which at high speed resembled the familiar but banned Marlboro branding. They were then forced to remove it, and from 2011 to 2017, the Scuderia Ferrari logo was a red and white rectangle similar to a pack of Marlboro cigarettes. With the exit of Santander as the primary sponsor in 2018, a new sponsor appeared called Mission Winnow, which advocated a healthier future for smokers in the world. This brand was mostly a promotional campaign between Ferrari and Marlboro. Its logo was suggestive of the Marlboro M, and was removed in many races because some countries did not allow it. British American Tobacco also returned to F1 in 2019, with McLaren using a similar scheme called A Better Tomorrow, a shell brand just like Mission Winnow. However, after investigations by the European Commission in 2019, it was withdrawn and replaced by an electronic cigarette company, as this type of advertising is legal in F1. Tobacco companies aren't the only companies controversially pouring money into F1, however. Netflix have had a major part to play in F1's growth in recent years, both on and off the track, but many old-time fans and drivers have expressed their disapproval of the direction the sport is heading in. Check out this video to find out why.